Here's a lesson on rearranging formulas. Rearranging formulas is useful because it allows us to solve for different variables depending on what information we have and what we need to find. In physics, it's known that force equals mass times acceleration, so F equals m times a. But that formula could be rearranged to show the relationship between the variables in a different way. We could say that mass equals force divided by acceleration, or acceleration equals force divided by mass. But why would it be useful to know how to rearrange this formula to isolate either m or a? Well, it would be useful because instead of memorizing multiple formulas, you can learn to rearrange one general formula to suit different situations. So instead of having to memorize all three versions of the formula for the relationship between force, mass, and acceleration, we can just memorize this one general formula, force equals mass times acceleration, and then learn how to rearrange that general formula to isolate either of the other variables. And now let's try an example where we see why learning how to rearrange a formula is going to be useful. Example 1 says the relationship between how high you are and how far you can see is given by this formula, d equals 2 times the square root of 3.2 times h, where h is your height in meters above the ground, and d is the distance in kilometers to the horizon. Using this formula and the information we see in this diagram of the CN Tower, let's figure out how far we can see from the 360 restaurant, which is 351 meters off the ground. Using this formula, I can replace the height with 351 meters. And if I use a calculator to evaluate this, I would see that the distance to the horizon is about 67.03 kilometers. So if you're up here in the 360 restaurant in the CN Tower, the distance you can see to the horizon is about 67 kilometers. But if we go up higher, up to the skypod up here, part B says that the horizon from the skypod is 75.64 kilometers away. And we want to know how high up is the skypod to the nearest meter. So how high off the ground, what's the height off the ground of the skypod? So this time, if we were to use this formula for the distance to the horizon based on the height you are, we now know the distance to the horizon is 75.64, and we're missing the height. So I'll sub in 75.64 for the distance. And now to figure out the height, I'm going to have to rearrange this formula to isolate my unknown variable h. So to isolate this h, I'll need to use inverse operations. The square root of 3.2h is being multiplied by 2, so I can move the 2 to the other side by dividing both sides by 2. On the right, the 2's cancel, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and on the left, half of 75.64 is 37.82. And now I need to get rid of this square root symbol. The inverse, or opposite of square rooting, is squaring. So I can eliminate that square root symbol by squaring both sides of the equation. On the right, the square and the square root cancel out, and on the left, 37.82 squared is 1,430.3524. And lastly, the h is currently being multiplied by 3.2, so I'll need to do the opposite of multiplying by 3.2, which is dividing by 3.2 to get that h isolated. And I have to do it to both sides to make sure the equation stays balanced. On the right, the 3.2's cancel, leaving me with only an h on the right, so h is equal to this quotient. And the question only wants me to find the height to the nearest meter, so this quotient to the nearest meter is 447 meters. So looking back at part A and part B, which one was easier to solve? Well, part A was significantly easier because our unknown variable in part A was the distance, and that one was already isolated. In part B, our unknown variable was the height, and that was not isolated. So when your unknown variable is already isolated before substituting into the formula, it's much easier to solve because you don't have to do any rearranging, you just have to evaluate. So let's write that down for our answer for part C. A was easier to solve because the unknown variable was already isolated. So in general, if we look at part 2 here, if we are working with a formula with multiple variables, where you're given the value of all the variables except for one, we can either substitute the known values of the variables first and then rearrange to isolate the unknown variable, or we could rearrange for the unknown variable first and then substitute in the known values. And when rearranging a formula to isolate a variable, think of all the other variables as constants and then isolate the variable in the same way that you would solve an equation. And that would be using inverse operations, following the order of BEDMAS, but in reverse, to get your unknown variable isolated. So if we look at example 2, we'll use both methods, and you can see how they both work out to the same answer, and you can see which method you like better. Example 2 says a cyclist travels 120 kilometers at a speed of 30 kilometers an hour. How long did the trip take? And we'll solve this in 2 ways. So notice our variables are distance, speed, and our unknown is time, right? How long did it take? That's a time. Well, the relationship between distance, speed, and time is that distance is equal to speed times time. And how we could write that is d equals v times t, where d is distance, v is speed, t is time. The first method says to use substitution first. So that would mean sub in for the 2 known values first, which means substitute in for all your known values of the variables first, and then rearrange to isolate your unknown variable. Well, the question tells us the distance is 120, so I can replace d with 120. And I know the speed is 30 kilometers an hour, so I can replace v with 30. And my only unknown is time, t, and that t is not isolated yet. So what I'm going to have to do to solve for t is, now that I've substituted in, I can now rearrange this formula to isolate t using inverse operations. The t is being multiplied by 30, so I'll do the opposite of multiplying by 30, which is dividing by 30, to remove it from the right side. And whatever I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other to keep it balanced. On the right, the 30s cancel, leaving just a t left on the right. And on the left side of the equation, I have the quotient of 120 and 30. 120 divided by 30 is 4. So the trip took 4 hours. But instead of substituting in the known values right away and then rearranging to isolate our unknown variable, we could have rearranged for the unknown variable first and then substituted in. So I could look at this formula, and before subbing in, I know my unknown is time, so I could rearrange the formula to isolate t right away. So I need to move this v to the other side of the equation using inverse operations. I'll treat v as if it's a number, so that v is being multiplied by t. To move it to the other side, I would have to divide by v. And to keep the equation balanced, I'd have to divide both sides by v. On the right side of the equation, the v's cancel, leaving me with d over v is equal to t. Or equivalently, I could say that t equals d over v. By convention, we usually put the isolated variable on the left, but it doesn't really matter. And now that I've rearranged to isolate the unknown variable t, now I can substitute in for my known values of the distance and speed. Sub in 120 for distance and 30 for speed. Which means time is equal to 120 divided by 30, which once again is 4. So the time of the trip is 4 hours. Both methods result in the same answer. Method 1, we substitute in for our known values first and then isolate the unknown variable. Method 2, we isolate the unknown variable first and then substitute in our known values. So let's go ahead to example 3, and let's just practice rearranging formulas to isolate for the indicated variable. If we look at part A, we have d equals a plus b. In that version of the formula, d is isolated, but the question tells us to rearrange it to isolate for a. So we want a to be by itself. Right now, b is being added to it. So let me rewrite the formula. And now to isolate this a, right now b is being added to it. So I'll do the opposite of adding b, which is subtracting b, to eliminate the b from the right side of the equation. And then I also have to do that to the left side of the equation to keep it balanced. On the right, b minus b is 0. So on the right side of the equation, all we have left is a, and on the left side, we have d minus b. A has now been isolated. But like I said, usually we write the isolated variable on the left side of the equation. If d minus b equals a, I could write equivalently that a is equal to d minus b. So here's the version of the original formula that now has a isolated. Let's move on to part B. Part B, we have the familiar formula circumference equals 2 pi times the radius. And what the question wants us to do is rearrange this formula to isolate r. Right now, r is being multiplied by 2 pi. To get rid of that 2 pi from the right side of the equation, I would do the opposite of multiplying by 2 pi, which is dividing by 2 pi. And then do it to the left side of the equation as well to keep the equation balanced. On the right, 2 pi divided by 2 pi is 1, so we can cancel those out. So on the right side of the equation, all we have left is r, and on the left side, we have circumference divided by 2 pi, which I could write equivalently with radius on the left side of the equation. Radius equals circumference over 2 pi. So this is the version of the formula that shows the relationship between radius and circumference of a circle that has radius isolated. Let's try 4 more. Part C, we have y equals x squared. With this formula, the y is currently isolated, but the question wants us to isolate the x. So we need the x to be all by itself. Right now, the x is being squared. To remove the squared from the right side of the equation, I have to do the inverse, or opposite of squaring, which is actually plus or minus square rooting. So on both sides of the equation, I would have to do plus or minus the square root of both sides. On the right, the square and the plus or minus square rooting cancel out, leaving me with, on the right side of the equation, just x. And on the left side of the equation, I have plus or minus the square root of y. And writing this with the isolated variable on the left, I could say x equals plus or minus the square root of y. So there's the version of the formula that has x isolated. Moving on to part D, we see this familiar equation. It's the equation of a line, y equals mx plus b. In this version, y is isolated, but the question tells us to isolate for x. Two things are happening to this x that we want to isolate. It's being multiplied by m, and b is being added to it. We always want to start by isolating the term that has the variable we want to isolate. So we want to isolate mx first. Or another way to think about it, when choosing what inverse operation to do first, we do BEDMAS in reverse. So we'll do our adding and subtracting before our multiplying and dividing. So I'll eliminate this adding b from the right side of the equation first. And I would do that by subtracting b on both sides of the equation. On the right, b minus b is 0, they cancel out. So I now have y minus b is equal to m times x. Now the x is being multiplied by m. The inverse of multiplying by m is dividing by m. So I would have to divide the right side by m to get rid of it. But I also have to do that to the left side to keep the equation balanced. So on the right side, m divided by m is 1, so we can cancel those out, leaving me with only an x on the right side of the equation. So the x is now isolated. X is equal to y minus b over m. And I'll rewrite that with x on the left side. So there's my version of the formula with the x isolated. And we have 2 more to do. Part E, we have v equals w over q. Currently, the v is isolated, but we want to isolate it for w. Right now, this w is being divided by q. So to isolate the w, we have to get rid of this q by doing the opposite of dividing by q, which is multiplying by q. So I'd multiply both sides of this equation by q. On the right side, q divided by q is 1, they can cancel out. So on the right, all we have left is w. The w is now isolated, but I'll rewrite it with the w on the left. And now one last one. I have k equals a half times m times v squared. The k is currently isolated, but we want to rearrange it to isolate the v. The first thing you might want to do is get rid of this fraction. Looking at the denominator is 2. I can eliminate the fraction if I multiply both sides of the equation by 2. So on the left, I have 2k, and on the right, 2 times a half, well, half of 2 is 1. So I just have 1 mv squared. And when the coefficient is 1, we don't have to write it. And now 2 operations are happening to the v that we want to isolate. It's being multiplied by m, and it's being squared. When choosing what inverse operation to do first, I have to do BEDMAS in reverse. So before doing any exponents, I have to take care of the multiplication. The opposite of multiplying by m is dividing by m. So I'll divide both sides of this equation by m. On the right, the m's cancel, leaving me with 2k divided by m equals v squared. And then hopefully you remember from a previous question, the inverse of squaring is plus or minus the principal root of the power. So I would have to do plus or minus the square root of v squared is equal to plus or minus the square root of 2k over m. On the right, the squared and the plus or minus square root cancel out, leaving me with just v on the right side of the equation. And on the left side, I have plus or minus the square root of 2k over m. And let me rewrite that with v on the left side. So there's our final answer. And now let's do one last application question where the example says the area A of a square is related to its side length L by the formula area equals length squared. Find the length to the nearest tenth of a centimeter of a side of a square that has an area of 32. So this time it gives us the area and it's asking us to find the length. But in the original version of the formula, area is isolated, right? We know area is equal to the length squared. We have two options. We can sub in the given area right now and then isolate L, or I could rearrange this to isolate L before subbing in. Since we've been practicing rearranging, why don't we do that? Right now, the length is being squared. So if I want to isolate L, I have to get rid of the square. And the inverse of squaring is plus or minus square rooting. On the right, the square and the plus or minus square root would cancel out, leaving me on the right with just the length. And it would say the length is equal to plus or minus the square root of the area. But notice in this formula, it says we need to consider both the positive and the negative of the square root of A to determine the possible length. Well, the length of a rectangle can't be negative. So in this case, based on the context of this question, we can ignore the negative root of the area and just find the principal root of the area and say that's the only possibility for the length of the square. So now that my length is isolated, the length is equal to the principal root of the area. I can now substitute in my known area of 32 for A and then evaluate the length. Using a calculator to get an approximate value for the square root of 32, we would figure out that the length of the square is about 5.7 centimeters. And that's the end of the lesson. Hopefully you feel more comfortable rearranging equations now to isolate different variables. Make sure you go to jensenmath.ca to get the accompanying worksheets to practice rearranging formulas.
Jensen Math.